So what you're going to do is take out your natural selection notes. I see one person turned it in. If you want to unsubmit it, because you can use your notes on your quiz. So I want to make sure that we can go through all of this together. So I do need you guys participating in the chat so that I know you guys understand. If you don't understand something, I will go through it with you guys again. And we're just going to go through our notes. So the lab we first did, like way back, was the variation lab. And you guys measured pinto beans. And what did we decide we can conclude about variation from the evidence we collected in the lab? Like, what did you guys find out? What did you discover? Is everything 100% identical, or is it different?
It's different. The similar.
Yes, there can be similarities. Like some can have the same, around the same coloration or whatever. But there is a variety. There's like for the bird beaks that we started this whole unit off with, there's small, medium, and large. And like Nez said, things vary within a population. Awesome. So in our notes, what we should have written, I'll still write it in the box in case you didn't get to this, was box M. Variations do exist within a population, like different size peas, different amounts of coloration. I talked about the bird beaks are different sizes. And within a population, no two organisms are 100% exactly identical. In the video, if you heard me, I did say don't think about twins right now because that's a different situation, and we'll talk about that when we get to DNA and stuff. But just think about like every giraffe in the savannah, or every cheetah, or every lion, or I'm really feeling Africa today apparently, or every cricket. They're not all exactly 100% the same. So that goes in box M if you need it. Then we went on to talk about advantageous and disadvantageous traits. This would be the worm eater lab. So there was like Spoonie, Forky, Fortunatus, all those guys. And in the video of notes that I gave you guys, I talked about the caribou. So there was this albino white caribou, and there was the more like naturally occurring brown and white caribou. Which one did we say was disadvantageous? Was it the albino or the natural
one?
Yeah, so I don't know. If I'm looking at it, that's what Lauren said. The left one is the albino one. So I feel bad for albino animals. And why would it be disadvantageous, do you guys think? Why is it the one that they don't want?
Because the albino one has a harder chance at surviving in the woods if they can't camouflage, because then they'll stand out.
Yes, perfect. And then I see everybody in the chat saying they're easily seen, stand out, stand out. Yes. So they can't camouflage, and I would make fun of it when I see it. So their predators would be able to see them more noticeably, and therefore it would be a disadvantageous trait because they could lose their life. Obviously, they wouldn't survive as well as the one that's camouflaged. So I think that was one in the notes. Yes. So in box M, it says what would happen to these guys. You guys told me that they wouldn't be able to camouflage, so they would get eaten, and their population eventually could go down. Depending on how bad the disadvantage is, they could possibly go extinct, but remember that takes like a long time. And it doesn't always happen, but it could possibly lead to extinction. All right, the next part, then we talked about the flip side, the advantageous trait. So what will happen if an individual with a better or the best trait for the situation gets to reproduce? What are their babies going to look like? What happens when you get the better trait? Yeah, it gets passed down. So their babies also inherit the better trait. So they look like the parents. What else does it help them do? What else do they get to do that the disadvantageous doesn't get to do? Are they more likely to live or die? Yeah, there you go. Repopulate, live. And they reproduce because they are more likely to survive. Awesome. Yeah, so if they're more likely to survive, they have a higher percentage chance of meeting another individual with the same better trait. The two individuals that have the better trait meet, they make more babies with the better trait, and so on and so forth. Exactly, Ryan. The cycle continues. So that is in box O. Let me just grab that. The unicycle. All right, there we go. So the one with the advantageous trait produces more offspring, population increases, more individuals with the advantageous trait survive and pass on their trait. Exactly what y'all said. And then it was just our model. So I'm just going to talk about our model because, hint, hint, guys, this is a question on your quiz. Sorry, not a test, it's a quiz. It's only 10 points. I don't expect you guys to memorize this at all. You can literally copy and paste this from the chat. I've given it to every class, so you can use it. So I'm just trying to put it in the chat first. There we go. So this, when it asks about our model, is our model. It's box P. So there's 4 things that we've learned overall based on like our, what's it called? The finches that we learned about in the beginning. And then with our worm eaters and our variation, we kind of are taking all those ideas, putting it together for 4 big ideas. The first one is that limiting factors or resources lead to a struggle to survive. If we go back and we think about the finches on the Galapagos, when the drought happened, that was a change in their environment. The drought happened and it led to the seeds getting harder and tougher, which meant that only the bigger beaks could survive. The bigger beak finches could survive and eat those seeds. So that was their limiting factor, was their food. And it led to the little beaked birds struggling to live. We also found out based on those graphs we looked at that the finches had a variety of traits. There were small, medium, and large beaks. They didn't all just have small beaks because then how would they be able to get the large beak advantage? Then the organisms with the best traits for the environment will survive and reproduce. You also might have heard this as survival of the fittest. It's just the ones that are better suited for the environment or the change will survive and reproduce more often or more frequently. And then the traits or the best trait are passed on from parents to their babies. Just like we said, the advantageous trait is has a higher chance of surviving, and then they pass on their better traits to their babies. I do have one last question, is that so think about the Galapagos Island finches that we started the graphs on. Say I'm a little bird, or I'm a fully grown bird, but I have a small beak. Can I just sit there as an adult bird and wish that my beak grows bigger so that I could eat? Will it happen? Will my beak grow if I just try really hard to get my beak to grow? No. Awesome. So just remember, there's a question on your quiz that says something about like an individual can change their traits in their lifetime. Think of it as an adult bird or an adult cricket or whatever you want to think of. It's not a baby. Think of it as a fully grown 30-year-old bird or whatever you want to say. You guys are correct. It can't just wish it to be a different color. Like if it was the moths and the white one is like, oh crap, that bird can see me. It can't just wish that it was a black one, or it can't just roll around in some dirt and become black. It's a moth. It's not going to happen. And then just the last thing that is on your quiz is about exponential and logistic growth. So unless it's a chameleon. Yes, I did say in the last class, don't count chameleons.